So it was a good episode in that we got into everyone's minds, and there was actually an outcome that I didn't expect to see happening. But towards the end of the episode, the editing made me realize that most of these people aren't going to have that great of a pitch when they make it to the end, provided things stay the way they are. This season really needs another big shake-up, like what happened in episode 7 or episode 10, where Will exploded. Just, we need something like that again to boost the season up in my mind, alright? I'll try and touch upon more of that once we get to the end of the video. So then we get back from Tribal. Everybody pushes away Mike, even though they all know he's staying, and Mike knows he's staying. And then Tyler and Will admit that they're the ones that flipped on Dan, and Tyler, once he fully explains himself, Dan should believe him, and he did, because, well, yeah, it does make sense, because, like, if Mike had followed through in the bluff, Tyler automatically had 2 votes against him, and just, he had to have done something to keep him in the game. It makes valid point. I'm surprised there hasn't been more situations like this with these idols this season, to be honest. Will's reasoning, on the other hand, and how Dan is suddenly able to patch it with him, just not so sure about that, because one, Dan's behavior has been kinda up and down, all this season, and also Will has pretty much betrayed or stuck it to pretty much everybody that he's talked to this whole season, because first he betrayed Vince and Nina, then he betrays the 3 no-collar people at the merge, then there's him attacking Shirin, then there's him voting for Dan here, and then there's him sort of pushing away Mike and Sierra because of either what he did to Shirin or what those 2 did in defense of Shirin, even though there didn't seem to be that much. And since he was perfectly willing to blindside Tyler, even though he's supposedly in the Rodney foursome, pretty much the only people he hasn't done anything to are Rodney and Kelvin, and you really think that's going to last? I don't think so. Yeah, man, Will. Anything else to mention? No, I don't think so. So, that reward challenge. Well, they've done this ambassador thing before, and now that it seems to be a tradition, I think they're gradually figuring out how to make this fun for both the people that are going on the reward and the people that they're going to see. Because, like, the first time they did this, it didn't feel that great. The second time, it felt nice, but the people didn't really seem to be really the best people for this. But here, it seemed like everything managed to work out, minus the fact that once I realized it would be team versus team, I knew Rodney wasn't going to win this, not just because of the preview for last week making sense, but because why would they show him swearing under his breath if he wasn't going to win this thing, huh? Although I'm surprised at how close it was, and like, really? The blue team didn't have to unravel the last spool thing? Isn't that the goal, to unwrap all of them? Because I'm pretty sure they had to do that in South Pacific, although there was 4 of them, so there could have been a lot more interwoven bits. I don't know, I'd have to rewatch that challenge, and I don't have much desire to. But it actually looked like for a bit that Blue was going to win, because Dan got like 3 in a row supposedly with that, and Mike was being the boss of, no, I don't need anyone to help me, but Dan couldn't make that last shot, and Red got the victory. And then Ronnie doesn't get his reward, so now he's only got 1 more reward, presumably the family visit, to go on, and then there's the advantage that they're going to have on day 36, because if you look at the days, next episode is going to end on day 35, like with last season, so they're doing another advantage thing. Whatever. So, yeah, Ronnie's only got 1 more reward that he could possibly go on, so if he loses that one, he's gonna flip. And the fact that no one gave up the reward, well, there's the obvious bit of the fact that suddenly that puts them in a target. And then there's also as CEO, you mentioned, the fact that it was like a team mentality, even though Mike once again took over, just this time it didn't come to bite him. Right. So, Carolyn's mentionings on the reward, well, given what everyone's been talking about this whole time, everyone is always thinking about their relations with each other in this game. Now, you can argue that this happens in every season, but Tyler, in all of his interviews and exit bits, mentioned repeatedly that this season has so many big characters and people who are willing to strategize that it's just a little bit different here, because like in HVV, everybody was talking about potentially having an alliance with everybody, it seemed. Just for the most part, people stuck to the original alliances. At least that's what it seemed like to me. I don't know, it's been for us as I saw HVV, and I'm not totally looking forward to it. Whatever. Yeah, but it's nice to see her consider her options, especially since she's in arguably the very best place out of all of them. And yeah, I'm surprised that nobody, is thinking of her as a major threat or mentioning the Tyler Carolyn duo. I mean, for crying out loud, they're the last white collars in the whole season. Huh? And what happened to the argument of the blue collar people stick together? Well, but actually that doesn't totally work, because from the merge, these 7 have always been voting together. Never mind. Yeah, okay. And then a camp, Rodney's bit about Vote Me Out turns out to be a strategy to where they try and make Mike feel safe. But yeah, Mike's got a charismatic feel about him, so he can charm people, and he has in the past. Rodney doesn't have any of that. And also, it's too bleeding deep in the game to believe the vote me out thing. They're even farther than in the Nicaragua incident when Nyanka and Purple Kelly quit. Come on, Rodney. And like I said, you are potentially 1 episode away from the family visit. You can hold out a little bit longer, because I don't think you're going anywhere. Come on, bro. Sheesh. Right. So then that immunity, well, I think everybody could have limited it down to either Mike or Carolyn winning. That's Mike just because he's got the muscles, but Carolyn because she's a little bit of a lighter figure, and just you got the air that she wasn't in danger, and the fact that Sierra started wincing pretty much as soon as they leaned back. And yeah, like, when I first saw this on the original Blood vs. Water, I'm like, that doesn't really look that challenging. You're just dangling from a rope. Anybody can do that. I would think the bit where you have your hands way behind your back would be harder, but the more I think about it, I'm like, hold on a sec. Literally, they have their entire body weight submitted on a small bit of their feet and their wrists. Ooh. Because, yeah, I'd be out in nothing flat, because I'm only 155 and I have virtually no arm muscle. Trust me, you don't want to see what I look like without my shirt. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Carolyn gets the victory after Tyler throws it to her. At least I think he did. He was going to lose anyway, but I really do think he threw that one, given his actions later on in the episode. Finally, the camera brightened up. Jeez. Anyway, so then everyone's wondering what the heck the situation is going to be, since Mike is undoubtedly playing his idol, and then the names of Tyler and Dan come up. But what really bothered me was that we didn't get a single confessional really from Dan about his position. Oh, yeah, we did get a bit where he was stating that I know that there's 2 names going around, mine and Tyler, but nobody seemed to actually go up to Dan and get like his bit of the story, because with that advantage, people should be going up to him, but instead he's going to everybody else. Really? What happened to, Shirin and Mike tried to, sway his vote when Jen or Shirin was about to go? He had power then, but in this episode, it seemed like he didn't have it at all. Really, dude? Yeah, and when did suddenly Roddy and Will become so willing to vote out Tyler. Oh, no. I do remember that Sierra supposedly came up with the idea of getting rid of Tyler, but when did Will suddenly become so willing to do it? And when did Carolyn, huh? But what happened? Here. I mean, like, obviously, 3 days with everybody being so close together, a lot can happen, yes, but what happened? There's too much happened here with this. Yeah. And then, given what Tyler was starting to say, I did get the, it reinforced what I had thought, that Carolyn was actually the boss of the, Tyler Carolyn duo. It just seemed to be Tyler who fully convinced her to go over to the blue collars, even though he was on the bottom there. And he ended up being on the bottom again anyway, although for entirely different reasons, which is kind of fortunate, yeah. And then that tribal just, yeah, there really wasn't that much to, here, honestly, because, like, all we got was, Mike stating that, yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing my idol, and then I'm gunning for Tyler, and then we get Tyler's bit where he says, I do think it would be very surprising for me to be voted out, meaning that he had complete other faith in Carolyn, and even though Carolyn is vouching good reasons as to why she might contemplate turning on Tyler, just it didn't feel very good the way she did it, because I know that a few episodes back Carolyn was getting a villainless edit. I think it was when Hallie left, but was that Joe? No, I think it was Hallie, because she was contemplating turning on Mike, yeah, but yeah, this is the first bad thing I think Carolyn has done all season long, her turning on Ty. No. I did just state that the reasons for it make sense logically, yes. But given what insight I have been getting from the people's minds and how they are pitching her and Tyler to be a pair, you know, and that no one suspects that she has the idol, just it seemed like she was forfeiting a good amount of her assurance and is simply hoping that either she wins the next immunity or that Mike doesn't win the next immunity. Just, yeah, and then, like, the way Sierra was behaving, that tribal, just the same old line from her sitting back and saying what happens. I mean, like, her gameplay up to this point has made logical sense, because not only is she sticking to the people that she's been with since day one, she's sticking with people that will definitely be less liked by the jury. Absolutely, especially given the 5 people that are on there, which is a majority, but she isn't doing anything to really stick up for herself, take the game into her own hands. Because Blue Collar never went to Tribal, her name getting written down there was just entirely random, and really it was Dan and Mike that put her in the power position and convinced her to go over to them, even though it was more Mike than Dan, but that was a moment where Dan did say the right stuff, in my eyes, so yeah, it's going to show that the Dark Horse comment that Jeff made, not really seeing that, because, well, I think he mentioned that Sophie could potentially be a Dark Horse, and then we didn't see that, but then she won a couple of challenges, and then we realized that she's actually doing quite a bit of manipulating, but Sierra, she isn't doing any real manipulating, she's just talking. Now. In her defense, she does know what she's doing, and as Tyler revealed in his interview with Dalton Ross, or just the random article that you could read that Dalton Ross published about him, there's tons of strategy going on, but also tons of laughs that we're not seeing. But if we're going to compare this to HVV, which also had a lot of either noticeable people or very good power players and strategy, if there's so much of that going on, you still nonetheless have to pick, well, goats, because the term coattail has no use anymore, because people have changed that definition over time. So yeah, there'll have to be goats, or people that appear to really do bad. And it's especially annoying when you have somebody quoted as being part of the best look bad. That's one reason I don't like not don't like, but possess dislikes of both Survivor All-Star seasons, And yes, I do know about second chances. I'll make another video about that. But what I'm just trying to get at here is that even though it does appear that Sierra is doing stuff, given how there's so much either better stuff going on, or the fact that everybody knows what they're doing, they have to put somebody down lower on the tier of more likely to win, and it just so happens that it's her. So yeah, goes to show, maybe I really should not have trusted Jeff. Yeah, the guy who kept bitching about Jeff making bad stuff all the time a couple of years ago, decided to trust him, and it seems to have backfired. Yeah, that's what I get. Yeah, okay. So in the end, actually nobody really flips. In the end, Tyler goes, and even Carolyn voted him out. A tad bit of a bummer, because he was one of the more better players in terms of strategy, so it's a tad bummer to lose that, although it was an outcome I wasn't expecting, and it does make for a potentially better penultimate episode, but we really need the game dynamics to really change in this next episode, because, let's face it, okay, Will has no shot at all at winning this. Rodney has just barely a better shot than Will does. Dan has just barely a better shot than he does, so yes, that does mean if it ends up being Rodney, Dan, Will in the final three, I say that Dan wins, because even though he's pissed everybody off, like with the other two, he is at least playing the game. So that's why I think he won, although it could be that there's a few people who give a few sorry votes to Rodney, but I'm not seeing it. But we know that Will's not going to win in any incarnation, so whatever, except obviously Will's the same as Rodney, just Rodney's got a better airtime. Right. And then Sierra, even though she hasn't pissed people off, minus Rodney, she just hasn't done anything to really give her credit, and there's just barely enough time to give her like any credit. If she wins, makes it and wins, it's going to be because the jury wants to stick it to the other two people. Now, there have been multiple instances where that has happened, and I've been semi-okay with the result, like South Pacific arguably was a bit where you could argue that that person only won because the jury wanted to stick it. Same thing goes for Philippines and Caramel, but you could just as easily in any of those three argue the exact opposite, okay? But here, I'm not seeing that with her. Right, so then that just leaves Mike and Carolyn as being the only good game people, but Carolyn, I feel, sacrificed a good amount of her position, and Mike has been acting a little bit stupid given how clearly he is making his position. Now, to be fair, when you're in a fight to stay alive, there's only so much you can do, because like I recently rewatched Exile Island, and Terry's game in the merge for most of it wasn't really that great, but there was only so much he could do, and also very little gameplay happened at all that season in my eyes. It was just a person versus person in that area. And the thing that's even weirder about Mike is that it's not that he ended up being on the wrong side and had to fight to stay alive. That was Joe, because Mike is actually fighting against the very people that supported him just a few days prior. Yeah. So, interesting episode, yeah, but now I'm starting to have my doubts about this season. We really need a changer at this point, especially if Michael Carolyn don't end up pulling this out. Right. And as for the preview, well, they didn't show really anything, alright? Although it does seem like Rodney could be making a power move, but as I stated, I think in last week, Mike, Carolyn, and arguably Dan will make more of an impact than he will. And yeah, if Dan seriously doesn't try and use that advantage to levy his position in the game, bro, yeah. Okay. But let me just state, these are just honest complaints that I'm having with this season, okay? It's not that this season is completely bad in hindsight. I'm just saying that where everybody currently is isn't really looking that well. So we could be getting a repeat of Caramone here, but I know what to look for at this point. I'm not feeling as bad, but when I made my Caramone episode 12 video, I think it was, I didn't feel bad, but then after I made the next two, I felt real bad, and it could happen again. We'll see.